We're good to go, everybody? Okay, hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the third last winter speaker series of this year, which means we're getting closer to being out there. And I think I saw 44 days, and at least until the club launch, down at our clock down there. So excitement is building. And these Wednesday presentations and talks, I know, contribute to that anticipation and excitement. I'm Jeff Smith, member here at NSC. Happy to kind of MC these events on a weekly basis with the other volunteers that we throughout the winter. As you may or may not know, the Nepean Sailing Club Legacy Fund is where we put proceeds from donations that we generate every Wednesday towards. And the Legacy Fund helps with accessibility for folks who don't normally sail or who have some barriers such as physical disabilities, be able to get out on the water. There's no better sight than to see an empty wheelchair out by those red lifts out at our dock on a nice summer day, as we know that there's been some folks who may not normally get a chance to sail who have had that opportunity and probably done well internationally competitively, as we also have done through some of those folks at the club. Our goal for the Winter Speaker Series was $2,000. I'm told that we are about 200 for the next tonight and the next two, and we'll hit it. So for the next four, we're asking you to dig deep. We're going to pass around some jugs momentarily, beer jugs that are empty, and our kind of rule of thumb recommendation is, maybe the amount of a beer would be a nice donation, but if you're feeling like you want to help us meet our goal, that would be even better. So don't hold back. As I mentioned, our Winter Speaker Series nights are volunteer run. So tonight we do have a bit of a hybrid format as well, and so that we require the brains of the hard volunteer tasks, such as the guys at the back. So thanks everybody for helping on a volunteer basis. We're also excited that we get to welcome some of our other friends, boating friends from around our boating community on the river. And we do find this is a good chance to get a little bit of a sample of who's joined us. So I'm going to try to go through and get a bit of a show of hands, and Megan's going to write down the numbers. Anyone here tonight from the Grenada Sailing Club? All right, good to see you. The Elmer Club, CVGRD. Anyone in from Elmer? Okay. Lac de Chêne Sailing Club. Anybody? No. Nepean Sailing Club. That's a pretty easy guess. Safe one, maybe about. You guys got a count? Okay, close enough. Any of our Britannia friends with us tonight? All right, there's a strong one. Ottawa, the New Edinburgh Club on the other side of the river. Anybody from the east? Rockcliffe Yacht Club, anybody? Hey, thanks for coming. Good to see you. Hull Marina, also downtown on the east side of the river. And then the Gatineau River Yacht Club. Anyone from there? Okay, but hey, once again, welcome to the folks who are in from other clubs, and we hope we can have more of you in the future. Oh, non-affiliated, or those who haven't paid dues yet? Scott, you got this? Anybody non-affiliated, just interested from not yet a member, pre-member? So we got about 3 pre-members. Hey, that's probably the most important category. Welcome, always welcome. Tonight, an exciting talk from, this is going to be March 27th, a little preview of one of our remaining speaker series across the Atlantic with Michael Monette, Richard Monette, and Nick Day. That's coming up. But tonight, we'll go to another adventure talk excursion, and Peter Antonitti is going to be leading the talk with a couple cameos from a few other participants, including our own Mark Rand. But quickly, before he comes up, Peter discovered sailing after years of whitewater adventure tripping in northern Quebec and Ontario until 2011, or maybe after 2011 too. But in 2011, he acquired Pegasus CNC 27, and since then, BYC, NSC, they served as great learning points for him to transition to some of the greater, bigger waters, and the next leap for him that was Great Lakes and the ocean, which he's going to talk to us about. So let's welcome Peter Antonitti and his talk about his journey. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. I'm Peter Antonitti, and when I was asked to do this, I thought to myself, no. And that's pretty much what I said to Mark. If you're hearing me, Mark, I'm talking about you. And I said to myself, I just haven't processed the trip yet. I hadn't taken the time, even years later, to appreciate the amazing moments that I had with some special people. And part of putting this together was to sort of relive some of that. And I mean, obviously there's people here who have done trips like this, and I'm sure that maybe this is one of the reasons why you come to these, because you remember that you had a positive experience as well. So questions, use the mic. I think I'm going to have a couple of areas within the presentation where I'm going to ask for questions, because at the very end I've got a surprise for you. I'm supposed to talk about Newfoundland at some point, but I actually have a Newfie here that I co-own this boat with. His name is Brendan Ryan. He's in the back, and he's going to come here and he's going to represent Newfoundland, because he's in a much better place to talk to you about Newfoundland than I would ever be. So you've been served notice. So obviously I spoke about the opportunity to revisit and reminisce. And also, if there's anybody out here who wants to do this, I remember when I started sailing here, I sailed a lot in these waters. I knew nothing about sailing, and coming to these types of events and these types of showcases and benefiting from the existing members of both Britannia and here, for me, was a great learning opportunity. And I thought, well, if I can inspire one person out there that would potentially want to do something like this, then it's going to be a great opportunity for me to do that. This journey for me was full of fear, hope, positivity. I have a good relationship with those now, and that's part of what was my growing experience. That's how I grew as an individual, and I carry that with me through my my other personalities, like work and so on. This is my fridge magnet. It's all ripped up. I just realized. It's been on my fridge for about 15 years, and it was pretty applicable to the sailing thing. So I look at it almost on a daily basis. And what I've learned really is this has been a real adventure with this boat, and there's been ups and downs, and at any one point in time I could have taken the off-ramp or I'm going to just do something else. And it's been quite, it's been very, not difficult, but it's sort of a mantra now that I'm going to stick with this for a while. And that's allowing me to achieve some of the things that I wanted to do when I was younger and still a boy. I'm still a boy, but at the same time, we're doing these types of things, right? So I would say move forward, be directionally correct. The struggle is real, and embrace the struggle. And the credits of what I'm going to show you today belong to all these people. These are all the people that served as members of the Nanook team throughout the journey of coming, acquiring Nanook in Grenada, all the way through to where she is right now, which is in St. John's, Newfoundland. And this was done over a span of a few years. And I could say something about each person. I think I'm going to run out of time, so I'm going to keep going. And as they come up, I will talk about them some. So I'm grateful to each one of them. And also the other thing I learned is you just need to trust. And if you do, you can really develop a binding relationship between yourself and the activities that you're doing, and then just your existence, which I think why we love sailing. People here are probably sailors or people who love boating. And if that's the case, then you're probably much connected to what I just described there. I was tasked by Mark Rand, if you're listening, Mark, to not only talk to you about the trip, but I'm supposed to focus on these areas because apparently some people would be interested in that. So at some points in the presentation, I'll slip this slide back up and see if there's any questions on that front. I'll try to cover some of them as we go, but I won't necessarily be able to cover them all. So my advice right now is for anybody looking to do this kind of thing, I'd say just start doing it, and you have lots of opportunity to do that. Start small, and you just have bigger, longer stretches that are going to be filled with more uncertainty that you have to adapt and adjust to. Oh, I'm going backwards. Hold on. Well, that's true too. I did do a lot of going backwards on this trip. So that's the slide I'm going to put up at some point for questions. And at some point, I'm just going to ask if anybody has a question. If you do, I'm only going to take 2 questions and we'll slip on and keep going. So, origins. I mean, I used to be a canoeist. I'm the son of an immigrant family. We didn't have much, but what we had was the Italian Daniel Boone. That's who I was. I wanted to be Daniel Boone. I wanted to go and visit all the rivers and the beautiful parts of Canada that grace us with this country that's just so marvelous. And that taught me a lot of lessons, because when you think about it, you still have to organize and plan the trip. In fact, even more so, because you only have so much gear you can bring. In fact, for me, going from canoeing to sailing was an incredible thing. I didn't have to paddle anymore, and I could carry a ton of booze in the boat. Like, I mean, it's such a difference between canoeing and sailing. But you learn valuable lessons as you go and do these sorties. I had an experience where we took on, I'm supposed to talk about crew management and so on, so I'm going to talk about a story where we took on a couple last minute on a canoe adventure, and we basically miscommunicated. It was my fault. I'm just going to own it and say it was my fault, because I don't think they knew what they were getting themselves into. We were going through rapids for that week, and for some reason they didn't know how to steer the canoe. So we spent 4 days, basically the gentleman went into shock, and we spent 4 days basically getting them out of the wild. And so that taught me pretty quick that picking people to go sailing with is an important part of the journey. And experiencing things with them in smaller doses is a really smart thing, so that you're not in these bigger experiences and there's been some miscommunication by me. It would always be me. So, you're going to suffer exposure, physical fitness, and you're going to need to be able to sort of address things. So we also did a trip where we drove as far as we could up north, and then flew with a plane, dropped our canoes at the source of the Gatineau, and then floated down without food for 5 days, and with some of my best friends. And I got to tell you, chemistry is real. When you're not eating, or when you're suffering, you're not thinking the same way. So we had our disagreements, but we were a team because we lost food. We had caught some nice fish and so on, and or you're foraging for berries. And the purpose of this slide is really to say, I'm Italian and food is important. Yeah. And a shout out to the Ottawa River. I can tell the story of how I got into sailing, and that was actually from an event where a friend of mine invited me on his boat in late October, and I was hooked. And I said to my friend Luc Lafrance, who's back there, who's my mentor and one of my very best friends ever, and a catalyst to all of these adventures, really. And he said, well, you should just buy a boat. So that's what I did. I bought this boat. I bought a CNC 27, and it's been an incredible learning experience here on this water. All the things that I would do on this trip, I did here in smaller doses. You can solo, you can go out late in the season in November, you have day sails, evening sails, you can have long distance races. Really an amazing learning ground for sailing and adventure, period. So thank you. So this is our, I don't know how far am I in here, because I'm supposed to watch my time. Acquisition of the vessel. Everybody wants to talk about boats, right? People love talking about boats, and everybody's got their own opinion, and we need to respect that, and everybody's a different sailor, so there's a lot of diversity there. I partnered with a gentleman called Steve Greason, and he's an incredible sailor. He was a member of this club for a long time. He had a hunter here. And I just wasn't ready to retire, so I learned from other lessons in my life that I needed to start doing what I thought I wanted to do when I retired. So I wanted to get into this game early. And I just wasn't ready to do it full time. I was still working, and I had a lot of other responsibilities. But partnering with Steve was a good solution, because he really understood boats, had a lot of experience, and was ready to live on the boat. And for me, that would have been a catalyst to an education and an adventure with him. So we shopped around everywhere. I remember I drove around in Florida for like a week looking at different boats. It's like, the internet. They look amazing. And then you go in there, and it's just like full of fungus, and I mean, it's ridiculous. There's stuff going on that was never documented in the photos. But it's a real process, and I would say, if you don't have a boat, you probably all have boats here, but if you don't, take the time to really do this the right way. You need to have the right boat for you and for whatever kind of sailing you want to do. And so Mark asked me to sort of share some of the documentation or work aids and so on. So I have these types of things. If anybody's in that space and needs to do that, I'm happy to share. So, I had come up with this list with Steve. This is what was important for us. You probably can't read it, but that was what was important for us. And we stuck to that, and we went everywhere. We even saw a boat in Turkey. And ultimately, I saw this thing in Grenada. And this is the boat. It's a Liberty 49, which it's basically a blue water boat, and this is what was really important for us. Because, yes, we had agreed on a sail plan in the Caribbean, but that was just phase one of the overall sailing plan. And so this boat wasn't already in Grenada. I'm going to show you some pictures of it. Obviously, you're going to see some videos of it. If you look at the way it's designed here, you have your it's not a perfectly fin-keeled, but it's not too long either. 6'3" is pretty good. You have some range. A skeg-hung rudder, protect that rudder. This thing is a heavy displacement boat with a center cockpit. It's great on the ocean. You're in the middle. You're not bobbing so much. And it really is, really takes a wave really well. Like, I remember the first time we were on a night sail, I felt so good. I never worried. So this is the boat, and her name was Mariah. And I actually found the original owner. His name was Ken Roth. And I had to mail 13 Ken Roths in the States, because I didn't know who this guy was. I didn't have his contact. All I knew is I looked around and on the internet and found all these Ken Roths. And they didn't have phone numbers, so I actually wrote them letters with pictures of the boat. And one guy responded and said, "I'm not the guy, but I want to go sailing." But then I did get the real Ken Roth connect, and I actually had a telephone conversation. And these were his words, and I wrote them down. Because, I go back to them, and then basically it was like, she'll never, this guy did the turn of the world with her. Right? So he knows this boat really well. And I have his logbook. It's just incredible to read. But, these are his pieces of advice. I mean, anybody who knows sailing will understand that these are very healthy. Look at her lines, right? I'm in love with her, right? So we're not going to go there. Let's just keep going. This is other pictures of the boat. We have a nice set of sails there. And this is another reason I fell in love with the boat. She's warm. When you come down from a storm or whatever it is, you got weather, and you come down in here, you're feeling very well protected, and the bones are solid. The workmanship is incredible. There's, probably over $200,000 worth of teak in there. It's not about the money. It's just how well designed and built she is. You can't find that anymore, at least in my opinion. She's a complex boat, and I'm not an expert, and that's a bad combination. That means I got to come up to speed, and I've been drinking from a fire hydrant ever since, because the people we bought the boat from weren't high communicators. In fact, they were challenging to deal with. And so we are reverse engineering everything. We're trying to learn everything from the back. Hey, Brendan, I got a bunch of videos. I found them, by the way, to figure things out, like the water maker, which we've never used before. But she's got a washing machine, which we have used, and she's got a number of really impressive things which we are going to be using. So, how about a question? Does anybody have any questions now? Or, and if you do, just raise your hand or come to the mic. And if not, I'll just keep going, because I'm crystal clear. All right. I'll just keep going. Good. Okay, so Grenada. This is a story from going from Grenada all the way to Newfoundland. So Grenada, what is Grenada? Well, I didn't know what Grenada was either. And it's relatively still unspoiled. It's at the bottom of the Windward Islands. And for that reason alone, a lot of people don't go. It's too far. It's more expensive. And so they'll visit some of these islands. But she's also a hurricane hole. So sailors know to go there when there's weather. And many sailors spend their winters in the southern end of the island. Here's a cutout of it. This is where she was, at Secret Harbor. So, some guy like me just decided he was interested in this boat, spoke to the broker, and got on a plane and went down. And a week later bought the boat. Basically, that's what happened. And I went with this gentleman here, Peter Haig, one of my best friends. And we had a great time talking to the locals, meeting people. We went and spent an evening with a family there. As we picked up the kid from school, and the kid just jumped in our vehicle, and he drove us. He told us where to go to his house. I mean, it's just a friendly population. And then they showed us these secret beaches. I mean, the people are beautiful people there. So I highly recommend it. A good place to not only sail but also vacation. They're building quite a few things there. Okay, great. I get to show video. Or something. So now I get to speak with pictures, which are worth 1,000 words. And while that's playing, I get to have a sip of my beer. That's Steve, my partner, well, he's no longer a partner, but he was my original partner. And here we're in southern Grenada. Just like I said earlier, starting small. It's the first time we're taking this boat out. We don't know much about her, so we're going to stick around the waters of Grenada, not far from where we are. That was my daily routine. I'm the bilge guy. Well, not anymore. Yeah, here we were just sailing in the southern area of Grenada. And that's the biggest port they have there, which is in St. George's. My friend Luke and Andrew, who's so selfless with his time and energy, and an ultra-positive gentleman that was on our crew. And here we were sailing around Grenada and in the northern part, which is St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We went to a place called Union Island, off which there's this very small little bar called Happy Island. If any of you been there, have you been there? Yeah. So you've been to Happy Island. What a great spot, right? Guy made it himself. Did you have a question, Jack?
I just wondered, maybe you're getting to any surprises when she took her out? And
Yeah, well, we'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. There's always surprises. And by the way, I'm not telling you the whole story. There's no way I could. I couldn't tell you all of the things that happened. I mean, we always ate really well. You know, I've been asked to comment on crew management and techniques and so on. Food is critical. I've already mentioned that. But here's some of the evidence. And by and large, she handled really well. She shipped waves really well. Here we are in Myro, which is Salt Whistle Bay, where we've had multiple positive experiences. It's this tiny island that you would not even know about unless you kind of were in these waters. Steve joining us, and we're having dinner for like $40 US on the beach. You just sailed, 250 miles or whatever, 200 miles, and this is what you get in the evening. You're safe, you're in a nice harbor, you're meeting other sailors. Fantastic experience. You're discovering that you're not alone. You're realizing there's other people out there that like doing this. It's just a very affirming activity. And we always had these shore leaves. Not because I wanted them, but because the crew wanted them. Actually, mostly Le La France. But anyways. So yeah, just to recap what I just said, and I'll go through these very quickly. We took a short sail. Notice the timeline. It was in 2018, and it was only 250 nautical miles. Our job was to go down there, get the boat ready, make sure she's seaworthy, and take her out. And that's what we did. We didn't really take her very far. She was a complex boat, and we needed to assess things on the helm. And yes, Jeff, we had a ton of challenges along the way, of which I will get into some of them for sure. At some point, 6 months later, we did a much bigger sail. This time, we were going to move from Grenada. There were some other trips that I did in Grenada that I'm not talking about, but this is Anders Fernhoff, and he's a fantastic sailor, selfless person, knows so much about boats, and we were going to take this boat to USVI, and I was going down a week before to prep her. She was on the hard, right? She's like, no sails are up. We're over here. Look at his face. He's like, not too happy. We got a whole week's worth of work ahead of us before we can put her in the water, to be joined by some other crew members, Tony and Dean. Tony was switched there, and so is Dean. Thanks for coming, guys. Good to see you. And of course, Anders is always talking to locals. This guy loves talking to people and the locals. He's just a fun guy to be around with. What you see here is the stars are what the stops were that we made along the way. We started in Grenada down south, and then we made our way all the way up, making stops along the way. And I mean, you can tell by the pictures, these guys were having a terrible time. So this was my plan. We're just going to go straight from Grenada. We're going to go to USVI. We're going to do one shot. And of course, Luke and crew had another idea, and that's part of the journey, is discussing, what we're going to do and where we're going to stop, and working together to do that. It's not just what, the captain says. That's especially not in pleasure boating, right? If you're working, that's a different story. We're in the pleasure boating business here, so we need to work together. That was a very important thing. So what went afoul? I just wanted to re-point out that we did a very short sail. That's what's over here. Actually, I've got the pointer here. These guys at Nepean, the technology, I'm impressed, by the way. I'm putting that on the record. So in this sail here, it was very short. You can see we're at the bottom of Grenada, and we're just going around here where the marina is and just testing the boat out. We actually came up here and came back down. Are we sinking? Are there any issues with the boat? You know, because the next day, our plan is to take off, to go north. And now we're going greater distances. And the boat performed really well. In fact, I docked that boat so well. There was this lady captain next to me that we had a good conversation after that. But I was impressed on how I docked that boat. Of course, because my crew was there. It was a lot of fun. But then we had an oil spill. So, you know, we had to deal with that right away. It was a very tiny one, but still, you're in a marina and you got an oil spill. So yeah, I'm not going to tell you all the things that went wrong, but some things went wrong. We had to deal with that. So Happy Island, here's another thing that went wrong. We were sailing the next day north, and, you know, we weren't making the headway we wanted to. We just weren't making the progress that we wanted to. And I think part of it might have been because of some currents that we weren't aware of. Like, these are foreign waters. Yeah, we got the tides, we got the winds, we got the waves, we get all that. But then there's also local things that you may or may not know. So one of our crew members got sick, actually. And we, as part of, you know, the experience and as part of the working with each other, we use this thing called CCM, which my brother Luke mentioned a few weeks ago at his amazing presentation and talk. It's crew craft mission. We put the crew in front of the craft and then the mission, that's the order. And I learned that at a course here at Nepean, in a survival course. And the guy who gave it was a helicopter pilot who would save people. And he taught us some of these things. And I never forget that, and it's a great way to run an experience. So one of our crew's not feeling well, we put into this place called Round Island, which is a tiny little thing. And it's wavy, it's not great, but we put in. And then, you know, the next morning we get up, we let out over 200 feet of chain, and it's bouncy, and the waves are hitting the boat. We got to pull this thing, and we agreed we're going to leave early. So 5 a.m., we go to turn the ignition on, the boat's not starting, nothing's happening, we're getting nothing. So we're all ready, right? We're all ready, everybody's ready. If you sail, you know, like your crew's ready, and we're just, nothing's happening. And the same guy who was sick the night before, he's the one who found the problem. It was a solenoid that wasn't switching. And we just jumped it with some cables, and boom, we were in business, and here we kept on going. But I think they planned it. I think that crew planned it because I didn't want to stop it. They wanted to go to Happy Island. And that's what happened. We ended up going to Happy Island. In fact, I mean, I can tell you that we had a rip in the sail. Again, that same guy who had the seasickness was the guy who went up the top of the pole. So taking care of the crew is an important thing because you're in it together. And that guy was Dean, by the way. Dean Bowes right there. He's a hero. He doesn't say much. He's not a big talker, but he gets things done. So the experience, we went to Guadeloupe, but we didn't go to the main island. We went to the small one. And we stopped at these places and then essentially would have a beer and then go on a night sail. But we never really got that crazy. Oh, here are some of the pictures. Oh, another thing that happened that I will share. Tony's laughing in the back there. You wish Anders was here, don't you? Well, we sailed that day, and we had a ripped sail, and there's Dean at the very top. And Luke and I, we have a sailing machine. We have a sewing machine in the boat. This boat has everything. And so we have a ripped sail. So what are we going to do? We automatically jump to the assumption that we should repair the sail temporarily using the sewing machine, which was a fallacy. The reality is you're in the middle of nowhere. You don't need to repair things to the best potential. You just need to get out of there. And so we spent hours trying to figure out the sewing machine. You got Luke here because he looked at me. I was so pitiful trying to figure it out, he just pushed me out of the way. And then Tony and Anders said, well, we'll just put some rivets in here and we're good to go. And that was it. They were laughing at us having a swim while we were trying to figure it out. So yeah, it's good to have good crew, and it's good to have non-yes men, people who will question you and say, that's fine. There's, we're just going to look at it from a different perspective. And that's what I meant about the shore leave. Like all these islands that I showed you with the stars, we would stop in real briefly, go to a local bar, dinghy in, have some chats with the locals, have some fun, and then, essentially make our way back to the boat and sail through the night, and then basically stop at the next place. So, yeah, this was not my plan. Okay, it wasn't my plan, but it was the plan of this crew. The crew knew were in very good spirits and were performing very well. And so when you have high performance, you need to reward it with the ongoing and continuation of what you're doing. When things aren't working well, then you got to change things. But when things are going well, you got to keep going. And so here's a beautiful picture of Nanook in Montserrat, and I'm at the bar, and there's the boat. It's right there. It's anchored like a few feet away. It's pretty rare that's going to happen. You can do that with a car, but you're doing that with a sailboat in the middle of the ocean. It's pretty good. So we enjoyed that. So for me, I was practicing mindfulness while the crew took off on a tour. You meet people, and with these guys, they chat everybody up. And next thing you know, they're being driven around the island and given private tours of the history. And so what a great experience. Any questions? Awesome. Keep going. I'm not going to say anything more about BVI because most of you have been there. The only thing I will say is BVI, BVI during New Year's at Jost Van Dyke, if you haven't done it, it's a very interesting thing. It's got to be one of the top 5 parties on the planet. So I would seriously give it some thought. I had something else to show you here real quick. Here are some pictures of that trip. This is Anders and I landing. We're alone, and we've got a mission. Yeah, we got a generator that won't work. There's always something going on, especially with this boat. She's 1989. She's got a lot of work to be done. But she was seaworthy, and we would never go out if she wasn't. Here's the first night with Dean and Tony joining us. You saw Anders' face. He was so happy. It's like, finally, I get some help around here. Anders is sitting at the pulpit. We have zones in the boat. That's the salon where Dean was sitting in the back. And we separated the boat for, mental healthness, right? Sometimes, Luke's at the front here. The weather's not great. Here's a stop at one of the islands. This is Martinique. Tony's shopping. Anders is looking for parts. Night sail. This is what you see when you're out there. He insisted on taking a turn at the wheel. This was our logo, which you see here. I did a lot of that. I didn't have to do much on this trip. I mean, these people really knew what they were doing. Well, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes things got out of control. I don't know. But you're spending a lot of time with these people on the boat, so you're getting very comfortable with them, right, over time. This is our last night at Peter Island. Actually, then this is us transferring the boat. Tony and his family took the boat out for a week when we left, which was very cool, actually, and I was very proud of Tony and his family for taking it on, and I remember seeing them leave the dock. And yeah, we had a party. We had some parties, for sure. A bit of action on seeing the boat in action.
What's going on over here?
Well, yeah. Well, what's going on over there? We would use the forward pulpit as a sort of a place to zen out. And it's kind of really cool. You sit at the very front, and you're just bouncing around. You're fully safe. You've got, you should clip in, really. But our rule was at night, there was always 2 people on deck, never left the cockpit, and you had your clips. And then, so we went through watches, and I didn't take the time to describe all of those, but as this plays, I can tell you, we definitely had watches. We rotated. Also depending on someone's health, how they felt that day. People were really accommodating to each other. And that's always nice to have a crew that wants to support each other and make things happen. So pretty much all I did was I would say, I'm retiring to my cabin, and if anything happens, let me know. And they knew that it was either the wind, the waves, or something, a light in the night, because we did not have an AIS here. And we did have an instance here where I had two people on deck and they weren't agreeing with what's going on with that light. So I had to get called up and we had a conversation about it. Obviously we're still here, but those are things that are always dangerous. And seeing something at night, I mean, in these waters, not that much traffic. But as you go north, it becomes more busy, right? So, yeah, I'll just let this talk for itself. At this point, we've all been on the boat for a week or two together, so, things are a little silly, which is good, because when things are silly, it means that people are comfortable, and when you're comfortable, you can achieve greater things. So that was that leg. Notice the highlight here. So how am I doing on time? I'm doing pretty good. Notice the highlight here. This is a jump here. And so by the way, that was the trip that I started with. And those people that came on that trip taught me a lot. Right? I learned a lot from their seamanship, their experiences, and so on. And so now, we are ready to leave the BVI and USVI, and our plan is to take it to Georgia, which is another hurricane hole. Brunswick, Georgia is a hurricane hole. It's where the U.S. Navy used to have their fleet. So it's 1,500 nautical miles. And notice the date, right? It's not in hurricane season. It's just on the edge of it. But, patterns vary. So, we know we're taking a bit of a chance here, but whatever. We figure we're going to have to sort of watch the weather. And so these are the changes, the stops that we made. And we had a lot of crew attrition here. We had a changeover of the crew because when you're asking people to do something with you and it's a commitment of a few weeks, not everybody's available for that amount of time. And that's part of the challenge of sourcing the boat and getting the crew for it. All right, I guess I decided I was going to start with the video here. Or the pictures. Once again, I had Luke was with me, and Luke and I met canoeing. Actually, we were canoeists, and that's how we met. And he's an amazing outdoorsy person and a very positive person. Here he is installing the IS because he's like, well, I'm not going through this lights in the night thing anymore. We're now going up to Georgia, and I ain't part of that deal if I don't get to see what's going on. So we installed it on the top. This was our first stop in Culebra, which is a small island that we weren't even planning on stopping to. And it was one of the best stops that we had. We stopped in Puerto Rico, where I lost Andrew. And now we were down to Luke, myself, and he's here enjoying the salon here, and Brendan. Luke can barbecue in any weather, sideways. Yeah, it's beautiful when you're out there and the weather's cooperating. This is the Spinnaker, trying to figure out how to fly it. And here we took a few days off in Turks and Caicos, back to managing the crew. This was after Luke left, so now it's just Brendan and I. We met Mark and Charles. Mark, I'm going to get you on in a minute here. And this is where we picked them up at the bar. Literally, we just anchored off the bar. And it was great. And so this is Charles, an incredible sailor. He owns a boat as well. And he's pretty much retired. It's what you do when you got nothing to do. Yeah, and so we're enjoying the moment because there's nothing to be seen. There's nothing out there. The weather's good. The projection for the weather is good. We're having a great sail. We're having a freshwater shower and a swim in some deep water. there was no wind. So we said, let's enjoy it, let's take advantage of the moment. You know, food again is very important. Eating well, in sunsets, always a great thing when you're out there. Charles is so knowledgeable about boats. Here we're in Marsh Harbor in the Bahamas, where we took another break. That's the where we were moored. And then the shenanigans happened in the night again. So we're having good times with the friends and enjoying the trip, which I think was important. That's a boom break, which I had in the boat. I never even knew what it was until Charles showed me. So again, constantly discovering things. When you buy a used boat, I was gonna go to this. This is a squall that Mark pretty much single-handedly managed, because we were down to 2 people at that time, and I was sleeping. But I woke up. But yeah, by the time I got up, he had already managed a lot of it. So, you know, this is what he looked like after the storm. Mark, are you on?
I'm on. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can. So I'm just wrapping up this video here. Mark was pondering a lot of things after that. And this is what we did. We shut the boat down when we got to Georgia. It was a lot of work for 2 guys. And I think that's why Mark wanted me to do this presentation, because he wanted me to reveal to the world what I did to him. But this was his reward. He had a nice supper, and then sometimes that's what you felt you were working towards, just to be able to get to the supper. So Mark, I'm going to come to you in a minute here. You've asked me to talk about planning preparations, people, gear. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because I think I'm falling behind, but I think it was important. I showed in the first set of slides in the river running that it was important to communicate what you're getting yourself into. So in April, as you can see circled over here, I was already trying to bring up some crew, and I was defining to them what the status of the job was going to be, or the fun sail, if you like. And you can see I had a whole bunch of reds and yellows. For those of you interested in some of the tools that we use, I'm happy to share them with you. Tony Whitaker is really good at this. This is my version. I didn't know we were going to make exactly these passages, but you're doing some calculations, figuring out based on knots and speed and distances and days, and trying to figure that out in advance as you're looking at weather patterns coming in from the east, right, from Africa, because like I said, we were close to the hurricane season here. And of course, we always made decisions together. I didn't tell people what to do unless there was something that needed to happen, but it was very much a team thing. These were the stars that I said where we went. Culebra is a great find. Such a beautiful little island. It was perfect. Again, a short sail before we get into some bigger trips. Yeah, so you've seen all these. This is where we picked them up. Okay, you're on, my friend Mark. This is you're on, and you're going to talk to me about the amazing things you did in the 48 hours when we lost Charles, because I made a fuel calculation error. I thought we were going to we had less fuel, so yeah, operator error. But I was still learning the boat. The fuel tanks are curved, so I didn't know exactly how much fuel was left, and I prefer to be in a place where I have options if the weather changes, and so we put into Inlet Harbor, which we never planned to do, to get some fuel, and then something happened, a mishap, and he had to fly home. So it was down to Mark and I to finish the trip. Okay, Mark, you're on.
Thank you. Peter, it's great to be here with everybody tonight. This story, I think, is about the testament of the kinds of opportunities that Peter creates for people. So you can see already there's a lot of people who make these passages happen, and it was an honor, Peter, to help you put that boat away, I'll tell you. But here's what happened. We had some nice weather coming from Florida and up to Georgia there, and I think we got lulled. Oh, I got lulled anyway, the sense that everything's always easy, it's pretty nice going. But by the time we were down to 2 people, and my watch started at 3 in the morning, the winds picked up. By the time Peter showed up out of bed at 6 o'clock, he was like raring to go. And then by 12 o'clock, we'd entered the river, at which point we're now starting to put things away and get the boat ready for putting her away in the hurricane. I think I underestimated how much the sea had taken out of me, and also underestimated how much effort it was going to take to put this boat to bed. Because Peter says, all right, can we are we going to fly out tomorrow? We can fly out tomorrow. Why? How about we fly out tomorrow? I said, sure, yeah, that's no problem. Anyway, there was a lot to put that boat together, and I was just totally knackered. And it was just a miscalculation about how much effort we had to do. But at the same time, like, I would do it again because sailing's a partnership, and Peter's been wonderful at helping put sailing opportunities in front of us, and myself included. So, Peter, yeah, you ground me hard, but I was happy to do it.
Well, you definitely rise to the challenge. And
what other choice did we have?
well, you pretty much sailed me out of a squall and then put my boat away. Perfect, man. We're in. You're good. Thanks, buddy.
Cool.
Okay, thanks for sharing that with us. Are there any questions? Yes, please.
Talking about going to all these places, did you have to check in with customs or immigration in every port?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that now. It's just a tax. They just want to make their money. It's all good, you know. We're helping the islands, right? So, yeah. Next, anybody else? All right, next. Brunswick to Boston. Okay, so things change now. Now we're in a different level, right? We're at 3,000 nautical miles. And now, look at this. Isn't it great timing? I don't know why, but we're going down when? Yeah. You know, it's like we're going in July and August because my cruising permit is expired. And I call, and there's more to it. I call Homeland Security and said, by the way, this was 6 months into the pandemic. Right? Like if you remember where we were as a human race and a society, you know, we were quite concerned. We didn't know what was going on, right? But it is what it is. But as I call Homeland Security, they're like, nah, you got to get your asset out of here. Okay. So now I got to get the asset out of there. And so it was a real challenge for me personally. In fact, I think this is where I grew the most because I went down there. And here's my A-team. I just described them all. They're like amazing, right? And if you get a chance to sail with these people, grab it. They're amazing people. I didn't say much about Spartacus, but he's like a great crew member. He really knows what he's doing on a boat, and he's great with dealing with people. And now, it's the pandemic. None of them are coming. I wanted to put this X, guys. You know, this whole presentation was so I can do that. You're canceled. So none of them could come down. And I'm just, how am I going to get this thing moved, this distance? I was processing that a little bit, right? And so this is the new A-team, right? The new A-team. And I can talk, you know, we'll talk more at length about these people, but yeah, I met Kevin and Rod on the internet. Gary I picked up last minute in the marina. Adam was a good friend of Brendan's, and he served with him in the military. And Caroline knew Brendan. And I got to tell you, I wasn't sure. Caroline. I'm just being honest. Because of the experiences that I had. Oh, I didn't show you this, but I have to show you this. This is back to the other leg. Because everybody, and I mean everybody, loves dolphins. Right? When the dolphins come, you stop whatever you're doing and you go check out the dolphins. That's what we do.
There he is, look at this.
Play it again.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So Georgia's a curious place. It's in southern U.S. So they don't care about COVID. There's no such thing. So when we got down there, it was a whole new world. It was like people are carrying guns. They don't care about COVID. It's a marine world. They're very practical people. You know, their perspective is we don't see people anyways. We're out in the middle of nowhere. So, you know, it was an interesting experience. There's Gary. This is what he did most of the time, unless my partner Brendan was on him. And actually, that was a great thing. Brendan became the taskmaster on every day. So I just relieved myself of any work. Yeah, I mean, we get flying fish all the time, so we played a couple of jokes on each other for sure. Yeah, so the winds weren't blowing, so we had to swim. Sunsets are always nice when you're out there in the middle of nowhere and the weather's fair. You know, that I can't say enough about that pulpit. This is Kevin Duran. I picked him up on the internet on Crew Finder. If you guys are on those things, Facebook and stuff. And you know, we interviewed him. Brendan and I spent some time, quite a bit of time on the teams, sort of finding out who this guy was, and he turned out to check out to be who he was, and he was actually an amazing crew member. He was really good with sails, was doing some sail repairs as we went, and he was looking to get his, I think, Yachtmaster certification or something. He needed to get more hours, and Caroline really jived with Kevin, so that was perfect. We have more dolphins. These are different dolphins. Yeah, we had some dolphins along the way. I was going to skip it because I'm running out of time. Yeah, Brendan was such a workhorse when it came to repairing things. Look, here he is in the bilge, literally trying to get out of the bilge. He was stuck in there for about an hour, and I was just watching him and laughing. Why did you go in there naked? Like, it's not a good idea. Here we caught a tuna, and this thing fed us for 2 days. It was so good. You know, beautiful, beautiful meals that we had with that tuna. You know, high-grade tuna. Yeah, you're not going to see a lot of nighttime videos or pictures because there's nothing to see. The pictures don't come out well. But, you know, these were long trips, and we spent quite a bit of time out there. This is on the northern side near Boston. You know, we had some props on the boat to kind of bring some levity to the whole thing, because sometimes it's serious, and other times you have to take advantage of the opportunity to sort of have a laugh. Sorry. Are you enjoying this? Yeah. Okay. Good. Because I can accelerate this. I just want to make sure. So I want to show you this because this is an important moment. We made a choice to go out, and we knew this was going to happen. You know, like you're out there, and there's lightning everywhere, but not where you are. That's the best place to be. Like, you don't have any lightning, but there's lightning around you. And it's pretty far, right? When you're on the ocean, you see long distances, so this kind of looks dramatic, but I mean, it was for us to some extent. We certainly enjoyed the light show, right, Caroline? Yeah. I mean, so I was going to talk about that real briefly. I'm just mindful of the time here. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but you know, we come up with these charts every time we come up with these plans, right? We have to have an idea of how long it's going to take to go where. Happy to share with anybody that's doing these types of trips. Oops, sorry. What happened here? Yeah, so I just broke it up a little bit in different segments because there was such a long trip. But here we are, the crew is solidified. This crew was not solidified until about, what was it, 24 hours before we left, Brendan? Oh, he's gone? He left me. Yeah, we still hadn't finished the crew until just before we were leaving. And the reason why Gary got on the crew was because we had chatted with him about electrical work. And Gary was living in the marina, and he knew stuff about boats, but he had challenges. And we judged him to be of a good heart because he told us we were going to burn of a fire. Our batteries were expanding and contracting. They were done. Our big D batteries, the big AGM batteries, there's 3 of them. And that cost us $2,000 to replace those. And he said, you guys are going to go sailing, you know, you can either hit rocks and stuff, or you can burn. And that's what was going to happen there. So we had some good conversations with him. He really proved to us that he had our best interests, and we took him on this trip, and it really actually was a great experience for him. We made a lot of good connections with the people at the marina. And so anytime you're about to go on a bigger trip and you're cutting these relationships with the people in the marina that you've been working with, talking to, and I'm talking about other sailors, it wears on you. And it's tough to leave that, but at the same time, you're a sailor and you gotta move. And then the best thing was when we left, you felt so good about it. There's a ship full of cars that had basically gone under in the harbor we were coming out. So you saw the lightning and the dolphins. I'm not going to talk about all these things. You know, almost a ship of collision. I mean, we're not going to talk about all these things, but these things did happen. I didn't look at the logbook. This for me was an important decision. I called my buddy Luke because we were looking at weather, and you know, Cape Hatteras is a long stretch. These are all the shipwrecks, and it's shallow, and that's the problem. When it's shallow, and storms come or big waves come, and, the boat doesn't behave the same way like when you're down south and you have these big roller waves coming through. That's no big deal. You're just enjoying them. But when you have the shorter waves, it's a problem. So we wanted to make sure we got out far enough. So picking the weather window was really important. But we went to dinner at Beaufort. We had a great time, and we made a crew decision. And the decision of the crew was, we looked at the apps, and we saw that the cells had passed by. And we can see them, right? We can see the storms in the distance, and we can see there's nothing coming. All the information we had confirmed it, but you still have that doubt in your mind. You're about to make this jump. It's a significant jump. You do not want to be out there. So for me, it was great to have a great crew to be able to talk these things through with them. They felt good. The performance was good, so we did. We went, and that was our reward. We saw, that beautiful images that we shared with you. We did our homework, basically, and then we did calculated risks. And we had that because we were able to have the experience to have done that in different places. Block Island, oh my God, what a mistake I made. I go from experience to inexperience. I called the guy 3 times. We wanted fuel, and that was north of New York at this point. And he told me every time, we have a fishing derby. I didn't understand. Okay, you got a fishing derby, who cares? I'm coming to get fuel. He's like, yeah, you can get fuel. I said, okay. So I go into this marina. There are thousands of million-dollar yachts, okay? And there's no place to maneuver. And there's 4 of them deep on the fuel dock. We can't, Nanook is a great boat. She's a heavy, and there was weather. It was windy. And for me, it was a great learning experience too. None of us have pictures of that. We don't have any video, we don't have any pictures. All of us were on the ready. And I can't believe how well we performed. And I mean, I'm not saying that to gloat. I'm telling you this because we put ourselves in that situation by mistake, but because of our mental fortitude and the ability to focus on what we were doing, we got out of it. This is a picture of me sending Brendan to get fuel in the dinghy. Brendan was like, I gave him a bunch of jugs and he went to get fuel because we weren't going to go to the fuel dock. Anyways, we lost Kevin Durand that day too. But we had some good times. We got to Boston, and at that point I had to offload every American citizen because we're going to Canada and I don't want to have to deal with customs. And we're responsible for crew, craft, and the vessel. And I didn't want to have to sort of, and besides, Gary didn't have a passport, didn't even have a driver's license. He called us the next day. He said he woke up on a park bench. I literally bought him a bus ticket to get back home. I mean, we did everything for him. And he basically, I think he just didn't, he ended up getting home because now he calls Brendan, I think, once every month or something to say hi. I think you guys really bonded, so that was good. And he really felt good about the experience. This experience affirmed him and gave him a really good, it showed him that he's worthy and he's able to do things. He was a very good sailor. I mean, I will say that for sure. What do we have here? We have Caroline time. Caroline, he was a good sailor, but Caroline was my best sailor ever. And I'm going to invite her to come up here. I was super impressed with her. I had my doubts at first, but she really showed that I really don't know what I'm talking about, because she really gave me and the crew an opportunity to gel with the gifts that she had. So super practical, and most important is that she has a positive can-do. And so I asked her to come share her thoughts about the trip. So would you join me up here, Caroline? Thank you. Like that picture of you? I do.
Yes, my name is Thank you. Perfect. So my name is Carolyn, and prior to July 2020, I'd never set foot on a sailboat before. So Peter and Brendan and crew really put a lot of trust in me. Prior to I knew Brendan. He was a friend of mine, so I'd never met Peter before. And I flew to Brunswick, Georgia. I knew one person. I didn't know who was going to be sailing on this boat. I didn't know the trip. I didn't have an itinerary. I just knew I was booked off work for a few weeks, and we get there when we get there. So a few things that I learned sailing with Nanook, Peter, Brendan, and crew is take care of your crew. Check-in meetings. Every so often, Peter would come to us and, how do you feel on a scale of 1 to 5? Let's talk about it and have conversations, and we'd hash it out and, feel better about it. And that put a lot of trust in you're heard. And something else is take care of yourself. If you're not okay, you can't help others. And I was brought up in a way that you do things for others. You are a second thought. And really during this trip, it really taught me that you need to take care of yourself first. You need to hydrate, sleep, eat, make sure you're okay so that you can take care of the crew and the boat. And basically adapt, go with the flow, let it go. That's the big thing, let it go because it's behind you. It can't come back and hurt you. And so I put a few memories here. It was a great time. We were busy a lot of the time, but we did have a lot of off time. We were able to sit up at the pulpit and just look at the view and see the dolphins swimming at the bow, and it's something I'd never seen before. We had dinner every single night, saw the sunsets. We really felt taken care of. So Peter asked me to come up with a few things that, really I brought home with me. And a couple of them were, if you have the opportunity to put the clock away and, don't pay attention to the time, those are the experiences where you're going to benefit most. And you're going to benefit more than you think. Something else is the sailing community is not something I was ever a part of. It was never part of my life, and I thought it was so posh and, inaccessible. But really, I learned everybody is very caring, and it's a lot more accessible than you think. It made me want to learn how to sail, and so this last year, I took my first sailing course, and I participated in social sailing here at the Nepean Sailing Club, and I'm very thankful for that. And Peter mentioned something earlier about trust, and I also want to add judgment. It goes both ways. You cannot pass judgment on people, jump to conclusions, and that's very important. So I really want to thank Peter, the crew, everybody who came before with Nanook. It was a great experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. So fun. Thank you for amazing. Oops. You develop relationships with people as you do these things, good relationships that are lasting. I'm sorry, I came out of the presentation. Here we are, we're over here. I was going to ask a question. Any questions right now? Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going, and we're almost there. And the best part is, I don't even have to talk about Newfoundland, because I'm just going to pass it over to Brendan soon, and he will do the honors. I'm not going to say much more here, except that the Boston to Halifax, we had Isaiah's. This is a picture of the logbook. And we knew she was coming. And so we need to figure out when we were going to get out of Boston and make sure that this thing wasn't going to become a problem as we go to Newfoundland. We left Boston at night, and it's beautiful. It was 10 o'clock at night, and this was the view of the harbor. And why could we do it? Because my boat partner, Brendan, is a naval officer, and he knows everything about lights at night. He knows everything. I mean, it was so nice to know that he could just come out and tell me what was going on.
And he had the AIS?
Yes, he had the AIS too. When we got to Halifax, my biggest concern was my boat was going to get impounded. I basically had 2 pages of alcohol that I told him. I said, listen, we're way over the limit. Way over the limit. You're supposed to have, what is it when you come in from the States? Not much. Yeah, and so we gave them the 2 pieces of paper. They were honest, remember it was COVID. They were honest like this, 3 of them, And they came on the boat. I immediately told them, what was going on. I gave them the list, and they laughed and said, "Don't worry about it." And then they came down, and they just had a great time. They loved the boat. They just loved it. We had a great experience coming back to Canada. The type of experience I would wish on every one of you if you ever do a trip and come back to your homeland. Such a welcome, such a positive experience. Of course, they told us we couldn't leave the boat because it's COVID. And I said, and I reminded them of the Geneva Convention, where I'm allowed to get water, fuel, and parts for safe passage. So we went out and bought stuff anyways. But we were, mindful. But mind you, we were in the middle of nowhere this whole time. We were like 4 or 5 people on a boat in the middle of nowhere. We were not really a contagion risk, but we were going to get fined heavily if we were doing things we weren't supposed to do. So we didn't. So we were really good at that. So this is the Newfoundland slide. This is where Brendan's going to come up here. So Brendan is the new captain at this point. I've asked him to take over the ship's captain's duties because he's my boat partner, and I need him to sort of be in that space. And you know what? He did amazing. I was so happy that I was there to support him through this trip, and this was a homecoming for him. He had just retired from the Navy. He was sailing a ship back home where his family was going to greet him in St. John's. Right? Look, what a great experience. And then that's Rod, what can I tell you? Rod's not here. You never know where he is. Yeah, he was good. It was glad that he was on the boat. We went from Nova Scotia, we stopped in Louisbourg, and then we stopped over on Avalon Peninsula at Fermuse, and then Bay of Bulls, and then St. John's. Those were the stops that we made. So, Brendan, why don't you come up here and introduce everybody to Newfoundland? And as you do that, I'm just going to play a couple of clips and videos. Thank you.
Well, I didn't expect to, I'm actually supposed to be back in Newfoundland right now, but I didn't expect to speak tonight, so thanks, Peter, for throwing me under the
I'm going to show these clips. I'm going to show these clips, and then you're going to sit over there and do your thing.
What I could say is, even though I spent 20-odd years in the Navy, and I knew how to sail frigates and submarines and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't know how to sail a boat with a sail on it. I did a basic sail course in Kingston, and then all of a sudden I met this guy at a bar. Actually, it was Luke that picked me up at the bar. That's what he likes to say. And he invited me down on this trip, much the same as we did invited Carolyn, and I really trusted Peter for his expertise. Luckily, we had Luke there on that initial trip as well. I just fell in love with Nanook from USVI to Georgia, and then I just spent the next year pondering, like, Peter was looking for another boat partner, and I was so intrigued that I just had to take that leap of faith. Trusted Peter intuitively with his sailing skills and whatnot, and I'm a pretty handy guy, so together we were able to keep the boat running, ran all kinds of little things, right, that you never ever expect, and I'm sure all of you see, any of you sailors, you see that all the time. The craziest things happen when you least expect it. Yeah, that was an interesting story. We pulled into a dock that was just a long pier, and
We stopped in Louisbourg at a friend of Brendan. Brendan knows all over the place in the eastern part of Canada, and we stopped at a T-dock right there. He was getting phone calls from the locals asking him if he was a millionaire, because there's like, what's that boat doing there? That's how it is over there. But we had great campfires then. Like, we just came off the sea, and here we are having campfires at this guy's place. That's just incredible. There's a cod.
You talk about local knowledge. This guy, he was a fisherman all his life in Louisbourg, and we said, well, where are we gonna stop? We'll go to Sydney and make that trip from Sydney to, across to St. Pierre and up to St. John's. And I said, well, I know some people in Louisbourg, and anyway, we got talking, and this guy says, yeah, you can park on my dock, but it's just this big long finger pier. And Peter's like, I'm not parking there. There's no way I'm parking there. And I said, listen, he says it's fine, and sometimes you just got to trust the local knowledge. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Anyways, all I said was I wasn't trusting it without sounding it. But yeah, anyways, yeah, this is Newfoundland. Thank you. Brendan, are you going to come up here? Brendan's going to do one thing for us before I close this off. This is us in St. John's. We actually had a party that night, and a bunch of local people just showed up and came on the boat, and we started playing music. And a nice place to stop at, St. John's, Newfoundland, for sure. If any of you have sailed in Newfoundland or would like to sail in Newfoundland, we're there. We're going to be there. We're going to circumnavigate the island. And I tell you this, there's no one who's going to host you better than Brendan and his family. Jigs, dinners on Sundays. Great experience. So you want to come close it off here for me? We got one special treat for you.
And we've got a small token of our appreciation for you. And
thank you.
I can only add that people that caught Luke's presentation got the whole background to him toiling with the AIS there. We got the whole pre-story, assuming that happened before. But it was great to see everyone and your crew and your leadership. Obviously, you bring a lot of people to you and bring out the best in them. So thanks for sharing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and thanks everybody for coming. I really enjoyed sharing these experiences with you. And if there's any questions, or if you're planning something like this and you want to see some of those work aids, job aids that we had, and if you've done stuff, I'd love to connect with you to learn about your experiences, because we're going to go over the puddle. And Brendan's got to come back. He just went to Ireland this summer on a boat in a 2 weeks notice, and he did that like in, was it 2-3 weeks? Anyway, so he had a great experience. We'd like to hear about that.
We have a Maritimer question here.
Yeah, yes.
Hey, how you doing? I do have a question. I'm a little confused. At what time, like, who bought the boat first? Was it you? You bought the boat first.
I bought it with Steve Griefson.
Steve, okay, yeah. So you brought it up, and then Brendan decided to become a partner.
Yeah, we basically boozed them in the bar.
Hold on. My question is, for it. At what point did you decide to take it to Newfoundland? What was your first goal?
Yeah.
To go where? Was it Halifax? And then you met Brendan? And then
no, I would never have taken it to Newfoundland. I got bamboozled by 2 Newfies. Thank you for that question. Just for the record, a couple of Newfies made some promises to me about Newfoundland, and I believed them. I can tell you right now, Newfoundland is the real deal. It's cold. The weather is, I've spent the last 4 years working on a boat. I am no longer a sailor. Actually, I'm a boat builder now. Actually, Brendan is the architect and the boat builder. I just show up every once in a while. But it's really difficult to refurbish a boat in Newfoundland. But the reason why we went to Newfoundland was because my good friend Brendan was retiring from the Navy, and I'm all about experiences and dreams, and I thought it would be amazing, and he thought it would be amazing if, as he retired from the Navy, he sailed his boat home. I thought that was just a great story, and we live for stories, and that's why we went to Newfoundland. I know, it's crazy.
So follow-up question on that. What was the original plan?
The original plan with Steve was to stay in the Caribbean, because Steve and Linda were ready to retire, and I wasn't ready to retire, but hey, I figured if they were going to spend more time on the boat, I'm okay with that. We just get to share it, and it's a great place. The Caribbean, it's a lot easier to get friends to come sailing in the Caribbean than it is in Newfoundland. I'll tell you that, 100%. So there, did I answer?
The last thread, the crew member who was inflatable, whatever happened to her?
I'm not even sure what that was. Somebody slipped that in there.
Maybe I missed it.
Any other questions? And I'll be here, and I come here on a regular basis anyway. So thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks, Jeff. That was awesome. Appreciate that. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah.